Hello.
Welcome in, everybody.
How we doing?
Ghost Hunter, Sarcastic Grandpa. Welcome in, everyone. It is a bright, shiny Monday.
It is it's a Monday. Yes.
It's a Monday.
It is definitely a Monday. How we doing, gang? Welcome back. Hope the weekend went well. I love the freeze watch just issued. That can't be for us, right?
The freeze watch?
On the bottom bar of the computer says freeze watch issued. I'm assuming that's not for us. But...
No.
Yeah, Hoosiers is like, it's cold here in Indiana.
Everybody's getting absolutely swamped, I think, with some storms.
Dude, I want everyone to cry for us because it was like in the 30s this morning.
You would not like.
I don't know. I don't know how anybody expects us to live through this. Right now, it's up to Chris. What's the temperature outside right now?
It is. Hold, please. Checking, and it is a solid 61 degrees.
So it got to 61 finally, right? But it was touch and go there for a minute.
It was
touch and go. I'm just gonna say it. I had to let my car warm up.
It was
Ain't
cold.
Nobody got time for that.
It was cold.
30's perfect. It's freaking 12 degrees. It was 0 at 7 a.m. I can't do it, man. I can't do it. I've lived in cold places, though, so I know your pain.
I'll take our heat any day.
Imagine working outside in that starting at 2 a.m. I'd quit. I'd quit.
Imagine.
Between 30 and 40 in the mornings and you're outside working in it, quit. Just quit. There are jobs that work inside at 2 a.m. Hell, there's jobs that start at 8.
Oh.
Just saying. Tim, what's going on? What do you do outside at 2 a.m.? Like, I get in the summer starting at 2 a.m. for things that have to happen outside because it's just too damn hot. So you want to be done by like 10 a.m., right? When it's just starting to cook. That I get.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I can get that.
Yeah, our 4 a.m.s in our summers, when it's 98 outside and it's 4 a.m.
Yeah. The only thing I can think of that would have to start at 2 a.m. would be something like road work.
Road work.
Road clearing.
Road construction.
Right? You can start as late as 9, start early to get off early. Yeah, I understand that. But what do you do? What's going on, Guardian? Hello, everybody. Utility locating. Okay, yeah. That makes sense, too. So you can do it whenever you want. You choose to be out there at 2 a.m. and 30 degrees, so don't start with me.
I can't
You just said you choose that. You could have gone out at 9 when it was like at least 50.
Burying the bodies. Yep, that's right.
Yeah, I was going to say, outside at 2 a.m., you're burying carpets in the desert. You get to legally graffiti the ground.
Nice.
If you could actually do it in a stylized way, that would be cool.
It definitely would be a lot more fun.
Would be a lot more fun for the rest of us, for sure.
Law Dog Wad, welcome in.
How's everybody doing? How was the LVO? I didn't go. Yeah. So Thursday night, myself, a business partner of ours, and Jen, we went out to dinner for our annual recap meeting for 2024, and those two had the chicken. I did not have the chicken. I spent the weekend nursemaiding those who had the chicken. Well, one. The other one's on his own. I am not in charge of him. So, but poor Grant and Jen both were E. coli'd nearly to death. Jen spent 72 hours in bed. Only getting up to have bad problems.
Ugh.
And
I'm so sorry.
No eating. She finally was able to eat some oatmeal yesterday morning.
Nemriel,
just barely.
We got
what's up, nerds?
The 38-month sub.
38 months.
And Brillig with the 49
Isn't that over
months.
3 years, Christopher?
3 years?
Nobody likes us for 3 years.
That's a long time.
You must be rereading. You must have dyslexia. It must be 83 months.
Brillig with a 49-month sub.
49! Bunch of liars.
You guys are great.
Guardian, yes. Yeah, no, she's not. She went back home. She had to come in today. Well, she didn't have to come in today, but this morning after I got out of the shower, she was up and about and acting like she was coming to work, and I was like, get back in bed. Like
Yeah.
you're on the verge of needing to go to the hospital. She's dehydrated. It's just not going very well for her right now. So, lesson learned, don't have the chicken.
That's it. Hey, Chad, if you've learned one thing from today,
Don't have the chicken.
don't have the.
You
That's
had a
what I
burrito.
should
Was
be.
your burrito chicken sausage?
No, it was chorizo.
Also, don't have the chorizo.
I had some.
You
food
know
poisoning
better than that,
yesterday.
dude.
I've had it before. It just and it was.
So have you played Russian roulette? ever in your
I
life?
have. I have played it once, and I'm still here to say.
I won Russian roulette once. I'm going back.
Yeah, I had some bad food poisoning myself.
The worst part is when you don't know if you should sit on the toilet or put your head in it. Correct.
Oh man.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it left me to. Well, I didn't really have to take care of her much. She slept. You had a Russian sausage platter at the spa and the pickled herring.
What?
Sounds like you're still dating the girl that hates your grill. You've played the world championship of Russian roulette. Oh no, Wad.
The world championship? Oh my gosh. I think the LVO crew is getting back today.
Yep, today they should be back already.
I saw Shelby's car.
Or
did she?
She brought that.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay.
Or Shannon was driving.
Shannon, okay.
Puking in the tub and the super poops at the same time is not your idea of a good time. Correct. Yeah, out both ends. We're not going to talk about it anymore. We're going to paint. Let's paint. I just had a sandwich with no chicken in it.
I just had a sandwich.
With no chicken. My sandwich had no chicken. I repeat, no chicken. You know, I'm not a big chicken out guy unless it's fried. But I can tell you this.
Like grilled chicken?
I don't know if I actively do this, but I can tell you that when I have chicken and it seems a little off at first taste, I stop eating it.
Just because.
Send it back. Tell them I'm not eating this. You need to give me something else.
Yep.
And Jen said she only ate half of her sandwich because it tasted a little off.
You kind of know right away.
Chicken is one of those that chicken should not taste gamey. If you have gamey chicken going on, you probably need to be like, whoa, big fella.
It shouldn't. Gamey chicken. I don't know if I've ever had gamey chicken.
Not really trying to have the gamey chicken. Just going to toss it out there.
If you're all tuning in, we are continuing with Anthony L. Tigre today. Last week, we did 5 models with Jordan on Friday.
Yes.
And we utilized Noosh, and I'm going to take a picture of those for you guys. The Noosh just looks great when it dries. Looks so good. What are you doing today?
I think I'm going to start with some dark umber. Although part of me wants to start with some warm brown.
Is this for the
cloak?
The cloak.
I think I'm going to start with warm brown. I'm going to get crazy. We're going to get a little crazy.
Nice. I love warm brown.
You had a chicken that was gamey once. I think it was a pro chess player. Whoa. 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 Chess playing chickens is where I draw the line. You can have all your fantasy and sci-fi and nerd stuff. Once you start telling me there's chickens that play chess, I'm out. I'm out. Next, there's talking rabbits. Not into talking rabbits. Ever since Watership Down when I was like 9. The big one-eyed rabbit that eats them all, kills them. Rabbits don't kill each other. Rabbits are nice. Until they aren't. Chris, have you ever even seen Watership Down?
I don't think so. I know.
Oh,
I'm
God.
creating a list of movies that I need to sit down and watch.
Oh, my God. What is this world coming
Watership
to? How
Down.
in the world can you say
know.
that you produce anything film-like when you haven't seen what is quite possibly the most daring and incredible piece of film work ever assembled
Watership
by
Down?
man? Watership Down. It's a cartoon. Supposedly for kids. Don't let kids watch it, please.
Wait a
God,
minute,
God
wait a
almighty,
minute.
don't let kids
Is
watch it.
Is that the one you showed me and Gabe that one day?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, that was rejected. That's a totally
Okay.
different kind of cartoon. My anus is bleeding.
Oh, man.
I'm a banana. That one's totally different. Totally different. That one's hilarious, though. You have to have that irreverent sense of humor turned on, though, for it to really make a lot of sense. Well, I don't know that it ever makes a lot of sense.
It's definitely that very slapsticky humor.
It's so good when it's like the 3 stick figures and they're saying, this is the funny hat club, the meeting of the funny hat club. and the one guy walks up with a not funny hat and they beat the death out of him.
It's so random.
Nice little cartoon guys. They're just all merry in their funny hats. And a guy shows up with a plain hat. They like beat him to a bloody pulp. And because it's all black and white and the only thing that's colored is the blood, makes it so much more visceral. I just love it. I found that like decades ago. Back in the dark ages of YouTube.
Grant, Secret of Nim and Watership Down are great babysitting movies.
No. Not if you want to actually be able to pay, like not have to pay attention to screaming children when you try to put them to bed. Watership Down is nightmare fuel for kids. They're like, what's going on? The rabbits are so, oh my God.
T. Schmid, what's up, man? I'm cold. Yes, you are cold.
It's like the animated Animal Farm. Also pretty brutal.
The animated Animal Farm?
Yeah. I think that's the only one they did, right?
Okay, I thought so.
That and Chicken Run.
Chicken Run, great movie.
Chicken Run.
One of the best movies out there.
The chickens, they're conspiring. Chicken Run is one of my favorite movies of all time. I'm a big Wallace and Gromit fan, though, so that's like a world of Wallace and Gromit.
Oh, yeah. The some of that stop motion and the way it was done years ago. The amount of work,
all
that
practical
went into
effects, and how much time did that take?
Massive amount of time. Massive amount.
Well, it's like Ray Harryhausen that did all the Sinbad movies and the original like Dinosaur, Journey to the Center of the Earth stop motion with the models for all the animatronic monstrosities in those movies. Yeah, like that's just like holy,
it's crazy.
Holy, I don't have the patience.
You know.
How great would it be, though, to like take these miniatures that we do, have them be fully posable, and then sit there and make like an entire planned out scene.
I've seen a couple people do that, but
I've seen one where they take amalgams of like Gundam and Batman models and do them. They're pretty funny. There's a couple of Batman ones out there with the articulated action figures that are pretty funny.
Yeah. I do like warm brown.
I'm a big fan.
It's one of my favorite browns.
I'm a big fan. Great color.
Solitaire, I haven't seen the new Wallace and Gromit yet. I know there's a new one that recently came out.
Oh, is there? Like a movie?
Yeah. I don't know.
Or a TV series?
No, I think it's an actual TV series, miniseries on Netflix.
Oh, wow.
Let me check.
Yeah, I only remember it from like the BBC series or whatever it was, right? That we would get over here on whatever it would be.
Yeah. Oh, yes. The Vengeance of the Most Foul came out on BBC on Christmas Day, 2024. And it's coming out on Netflix on January 3rd. No, I haven't watched it. Yeah, stop motion takes a certain kind of crazy patience. And time. Just lots of time.
I'm going to say, I look at that kind of practical effect magic and the patience it takes to get like one movement scene done.
That's smooth and that actually
with that
makes
smooth motion. Yeah,
like,
that isn't like all herky jerky.
Your light has to be perfect. It can't change
because you got to do one pose for every frame.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, if the more
you're
frames...
basically taking photos of it as you go at 30 photos per second of work, right?
Yeah, the more frames you have of a certain movement, the better it's going to look.
That's what's so silly to me. Taking that many photos. So you're bend, pose. Now, they have those armatures and stuff that then they wind up like alpha channeling out. But
like even the claymation stuff like Wallace and Gromit, they had to smooth out, you know. You go back and watch some of the original Wallace and Gromit stuff, you can see them smoothing out the clay as they go.
Oh yeah.
Like,
You can see the where their indentions and stuff. The clay actually moves from the impression that was made.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, claymation's crazy.
Tax Frost, welcome in. Welcome in, everybody.
Oh, wow.
Allie, first time chatting. Welcome in. If you're all just tuning in, we are continuing with Anthony El Tigre.
Antonio El Tigre.
We did this over the last couple of weeks. We've got the face work up on YouTube, and tomorrow we'll have the black armor workup completed.
He sounds pretty confident about that.
Oh no,
I haven't watched the edit yet, folks.
Oh, we've got it. It's great. It's funny.
He says it's great.
I have not watched it. Here, in a really cool way, right? It's technically 6 hours of footage, in quotes, not that long, right? But, over a span of what? I think it was 4 days or so.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And bringing it down into a bite-sized chunk, you're kind of like, ooh, should I include this? Or, oh, what to include and what not to include? Because then at that point, you're just like, well, that's what the VOD's for.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, this is going to be a great 2-hour tutorial. Oh, wait a minute.
It was already a 2-hour tutorial. Yeah, exactly. Just watch the VOD.
But yeah, that will be coming out to you guys soon. Today we're doing the fur cloak.
Yeah, I figured I needed to get this at least based. I don't know how far we'll go on the fur before I go back to the face, but for now, I need to have some color on this to get an overall picture of how this thing is coming together as a completed composition. I'm at that point. We've done enough, chat. We've done enough. Now we got to bring it all together. Do the last bits. Everybody take it easy on Chris. He's not feeling good today. Pour one on the curb for good old Christopher McSushi.
Hey, the show must go on. Oh, Tax Frost. I brush painted my first mini with Pro Acryl only. Almost
Heck
done.
Yeah.
Nice. Welcome to the crew.
What was it?
Yeah, what was it?
Anything super fun?
Panic Bomb, welcome in.
Hopefully you had a great time with it. This is definitely one of those instances where I probably should have base coated this before I did the hair.
Why is that?
It's just very difficult to get a brush down in here. We talk about painting from the inside out, and this is just a really tough one because there is detail in behind the head there that I don't want to just be the gray primer. So I got to try to kind of operation.
Allie, it's not called Warhammer 40K for nothing when somebody asks you how to start.
How much money it costs? Is that what we're talking about?
Probably.
Yeah, Warhammer 40K has nothing to do with the lore. It has to do with the amount of cash it takes
the amount
of to be serious about it.
Ooh, Panic Bomb started my Nurgle this weekend. Nice.
I like to hear it.
Love me some good Nurgle.
He does, by the way. Love some good Nurgle.
I do. What did you decide for the cape color / pattern? I see the brown going down for the base, but knowing Jason, that's nowhere where the real color is going to be.
Well, I don't know. I'm playing right now. I don't have a great plan. I know that comes as a shock to some of you. What? You? Without a plan?
He's about to put himself in
Sell your stocks.
Scale jail.
Sell your stocks. The world's coming to an end. Jason is painting without a plan.
Sell your stocks. This is it.
Time for that lifelong trip to the Bahamas you've been planning. Fiji. Galapagos.
It's Warhammer 41K because you have to tap into your retirement to start an army.
401k. I have seen that. That
401k.
one's pretty funny. It's Warhammer 401k.
That's funny.
Yeah, because you got to take early withdrawal on your retirement plan to do anything with it. So, I could do kind of a reddish brown, working up to golden if I wanted to, or I could go to more of a white, grayish pelt. The thing is we're going to have blonde hair and lots of gold. So the yellow is kind of off the table. Unless, because to throw in a third color of yellow on the fur, a little bit rough. But fur can have that kind of dirty golden feel, even when, like, if you've ever seen like an old golden retriever, right? Where the hair's almost like silvery.
Yeah,
Right? So I'm thinking maybe something like that.
Okay.
Something like that, where you can tell, oh, this used to be a golden retriever. We'll play around with it. We'll see. See what we get. See what we get.
Ghost Hunter Dark Hot Pink, question mark?
Can we make my view portal bigger and get rid of some of this chaff that's on this screen?
Yeah.
It's only like half vertical. It used to be much bigger.
Not this?
Well, yeah, but height-wise.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I had
think
to
you pulled
reset it
that way
today.
up.
There it is. That's how it used to be.
Is that as big as it gets?
Yeah.
All right. I'm wondering what I can do here. Might be...
Lumberjack Tim, I had some friends that would joke that I should be a paid spokesperson for you guys. They would make fun of me and call me a fanboy. A few of them picked up a pink here and there, and now they're all making the switch.
A fanboy. Nothing wrong with that, man.
That's how it goes.
Nothing wrong with that. So I may do the unthinkable here, guys.
Oh, no.
I may pull from...
Oh, again.
I may pull from the batch of stuff you can't use just to piss Chris off. I might do it, Chad. I might do it because I got some really good colors here.
Well, I mean...
Got some really, really good
we
colors
used
here,
the Payne's
Chad.
Gray wash.
I got
last
some
week.
really good colors here, Chad.
Nice.
Got some really good colors here, Chad.
Mustardy looking one, that last one? Which one is that? That one, yeah. That's
number 18.
That's a dope color. It's almost,
That's number 18.
That's number 18.
What color are you using right there? That's 18. The medieval style ermine cape. Which is what color?
Let's see.
Is there a Mambo number 5 color? No. I'm going to use the bigger brush. I think we're going to get...
Oh. Like this. That's that one.
Oh, nope. Maybe. Wow.
That's kind of a...
That's pretty bitchin', actually.
That is kind of a cool thing. That's like old royalty, that medieval style.
That's kind of bitchin', not
cape.
gonna lie.
I don't know. That is kind of cool.
Not gonna lie. That might be neat. But I think it's still no.
Tax Frost. I fixed my chalking problems with glaze with just glazing dark colors, by the way. Good advice last stream. Nice.
Well, yeah, and like I said, you can glaze brighter colors. But typically what you're doing with brighter colors is glazing to set up their location more than not, right? Bright colors can be a little bit daunting with getting them on the model the first time. You don't want to mess things up, blah, blah, blah. So, putting bright colors on as a glaze is a smart way to go. But what you do is as you put layers on, you're thinning less. Make sense? So you stop diluting the paint so much, the more you move towards the brightest of your colors. So glaze that first one. You'll hear me talk about it all the time. I'll glaze the first coat of a color on, not unlike what I'm doing here, but I'm doing it on purpose here, not to build it up to yellow. I just want a little bit of a thinner yellow to let that brown show through. That's part of what I'm layering here. But every time I go and put the next color on a model, the first layer is most of the time going to be much thinner. And then I'll start diluting less and adding more and more of a thicker version of that same paint on as I go. And the reason for that is that first layer lets you place the paint where you want it, get a good feel for where the color is going to go. Then you dilute less on the next batch that you do of that color, which ups its vibrancy. And then eventually you're going to stop along the way before you get to, that color as it would be right out of the bottle. Sometimes you go to that color right out of the bottle for like a pinch of the highest level, highlight. But the reasoning behind that is so that you don't have to do 15 layers of colors. There's people that will contact us that'll be like, hey, I'm trying to glaze this. And I mean, how many layers do you have? And they're like, oh, like 6, 7, 15, 20. And it's like, okay, that's a lot. That's almost too much. Because you're going to cause yourself all sorts of problems. So just be, a little less intense with those bright colors as you start. And then as you get them placed and they start to look like they're blending in with the background, then start diluting less so you get more of that color and work towards the highlight location. Stop putting so much of the paint on the surface, the brighter it gets. And start focusing it only to where you really want that color to be the most intense. Then you stop the pooling, you get what you're looking for, which is that brightness. Here I'm just going for some warmth on these colors that will be kind of indicative of the light hitting the fur type thing here.
Derpstick's got a question. With just burnt red and bold pyro red, could I base coat and highlight a cape with those colors? Or should I just pick up some Payne's Gray for the shadows?
I mean, I've done a lot that's just burnt red and pyro red. Sure. That works great.
Burnt red, another great color. Yes, Jason is teasing you all.
This could be just warm yellow. Could be.
It could be, but it's number
not.
18.
This is number 18. This is more of an orangey yellow than even the warm yellow. This is a warmer yellow. That's the way we should do. We should do dark blue and then darker blue.
It's darker blue.
Yeah, just to be funny.
So, Jason, on this, when you're painting the fur here, I'm seeing you picking out the raised edges. Is that correct? Or kind of like making it with a pattern?
Not really the raised edges. It has a dimension to it, right? So those folds, I'm picking up the high spot on those folds that would hit the light. So yeah. I'm less concerned about like where it's going on the actual detail of the fur than I am just picking up the treat it like it's not a textured surface and more like it's just a flat surface, or not flat but just a smooth surface. And then I'm just getting the spots on it that I think warm light would hit. Such.
Alex, we need that mustard, Jason. LOL.
It is a very, very good mustard color, not gonna lie. You guys are gonna love Adepticon. I'm telling you, 24 new colors. These colors are all smoking hot. I love them all. They're great, great colors. Great additions. Every single one of them. You've already seen me be using the Payne's Gray wash. There's 4 washes in this set, right? There's the Payne's Gray, the dark magenta, the gray brown, which is kind of like a concrete wash, and then the oil slick brown. It's like the petroleum brown wash, right? They're amazing, very good. All right, I'm gonna do something silly now, because that's what I do. I'm gonna do silly stuff. I think I want Dark Emerald. Ta-da.
What?
I know, I'm silly.
What?
I said I was a little silly. I'm not lying.
What? Dark.
I'm not lying. You know, I want to paint gray fur. So why not use brown, yellow, and emerald? Makes sense, right? You with me?
I guess so.
You with me, chat?
Crazy.
I don't know what I'm doing. I slept at a Holiday Inn last night.
Slept at a Holiday Inn last night. Got nothing to my name. You're all just tuning in. Welcome. We're picking up with the fur cloak on Anthony L. Tigre. Last couple weeks, we've been painting this guy up from start to finish. Started with the face workup, then went into the black armor workup, did some non-metallic gold, and now we're painting dark emerald green.
Now we're going crazy!
Now we're
Crazy!
going crazy, everybody.
Freaking crazy. Ain't nobody got time for normalcy around here.
Kardashian, will they be available to buy online or as they have unveiled at Adepticon?
I don't have a good answer for you on that yet. Our plan is always that we would love to do that. Whether or not it actually happens is up to production speed and what we feel like we get done by the show to handle, the show itself. If all we get done by the show is enough for the Adepticon crowd, then we probably won't release for a week or two. The way we stage our new releases is in a way that allows us to do pre-orders for retailers about a month ahead of release so that retailers can get a spot, get all their numbers in the system, and be sure that by the time it hits the general public that they can get it too. That's one of our biggest goals, right? So that has to happen. And once we see the pre-order numbers from retailers, then get a feel for what production needs to do for Adepticon specifically, which I think sales has already submitted those numbers to the team saying, what do we need to make for the show? There we go. Emerald.
Nice.
Just kind of some weird shadows. The brown and the yellow and the emerald together make this neat mud color that feels very dirty and almost natural. So once we figure all that out, then we'll come back to it and say, okay, do we think we can open to the general public at the same time while we're gone at Adepticon, or do we need to wait? Because it means that all the stuff for Adepticon would have to be set and that we'd be taking orders and that the crew here would be ready to ship those orders while the rest of the gang is gone at Adepticon. And that always is its own problem, as you can imagine.
It's going to be a big year.
We're like, yeah, good God. We're already like... I
think it's 65 days away.
What's that? Is it that far? I thought it was closer than that.
I think it's... Maybe it's not. I'm not sure. I saw somebody post that on something the other day. I'm like, oh. We're coming up on it, though.
Yeah, it's silly. Absolutely silly that we're that close to Adepticon already.
Voldemort sucks. Do you still like to do car paintings or bike paintings?
I never painted cars.
Was it just motorcycles?
Yeah, just stuff for motorcycles that I was building specifically. I never did it for other people, really. It was just my own bikes. The ones I was building for customers. So I guess technically I did it for other people. But all right. So there's some green, some yellow, some warm brown.
That looks great.
Done.
Now, why?
I'm out.
What's your...
Thank you for watching.
Oh, that's it. We're done.
That's it. We're done. I'm going to dry brush it real quick.
What was your thought process with the emerald, dark emerald?
Kind of like the way we tackled the face. The yellow makes for the warmer spots, and the green gives me cooler spots, right? With the brown, right? You can see that emerald green gives me almost a bluish hue with that brown, where it goes on the darkest. And so that's what I'm kind of going for. I reached for jade first, but I figured I'd go for the emerald because it would have a little bit more greenishness to it. Right? Now what I want to do is grab a color like this.
Oh, wait a minute. That's 18.
It's 18. Color 18. We're going to grab color 18, as you would.
Color 18.
Color
chat.
18. Incoming. Color 18. Got to show them off, man. I got to get people excited.
This will be great.
The hype starts here.
The hype starts now.
Starts right now. All right, now on these, I can use the same brush. Again, I'm going to go very wet with this color to start so that it is way more of a glaze-ish color, right? I want to be able to see that. You notice how thin that is? I can still see the green beneath it.
Yeah.
Get most of the color off of my brush. And then just kind of pick along here and...
Ooh, nice. Yeah, that really ties it together.
I'm going to go from the areas where the yellow is out into the emerald first, not right over the yellow at first. Right, so like right here where the yellow and the emerald come together, I'm just going to start there and start pulling right at that edge. So I get the tip of the yellow and all of the emerald. And this is a very wet, thin paint. You can see how now it starts to just kind of make all those colors come together. I could make a wash out of this, would have the same kind of effect. Except it would layer too much of the pigment in between all these hairs, which I'm trying to avoid. This is still not a super dark color. Again, just kind of right here. And I'm using the side of the brush and just kind of pulling it down over these colors. Notice I'm not using the point so that the crevices aren't getting any paint in them. And I'm painting sidelong to the model like this. And again, this is I call this paint, like finger painting, paint by numbers type stuff, because this is very much free form, not a lot of detailing. Don't have to have a big plan. Like Chris alluded to, this is just tying my colors together. And pushing it towards a little bit of a khaki-ish. I could use khaki here. If you're not fortunate enough to have a bottle of color 18, then you can pick up some khaki, do the same thing. Everybody's looking at themselves like, did he just say if we're unfortunate enough to not own the paint he hasn't released yet? That's what I did to you, chat. That's what I did. That's how you get treated around here, chat.
Start the hype train. What? This guy? Yeah, that's right.
Chris has to deal with me every day. You're not telling him anything he didn't already know.
We get to deal with you, Jason.
Oh, you act like it's a privilege now. It wasn't what you were saying earlier.
We get to deal with you.
See how it sinks the emerald and gives me kind of a undulating shadow and highlight color as opposed to over here where it was very stark, right? Very NFL yellow, NFL teal or whatever. Now we put this color over the top and it's doing the job of blending them together very quickly without us having to do any heavy lifting at all. And this is the beauty of paint, right? Layering thin layers of paint can take you to new heights of what I would call color blends without ever having to blend color. You do need to get used to painting with thin paints. But once you do, it's such a useful tool. And that's kind of been this whole journey on this model, is trying to get you used to the fact that look what you can do when we started the face. And then move down into all of these other parts where we were glazing for effect on the non-metallics. Now doing it on the cloak. To give us some interesting colors that will barely peek out. None of these colors are the color of the cloak. All of these colors are going to help the cloak look that much better. And because they're so easy to put on at this stage, right? I'm not having to do any stand perfectly balanced to get the tip of the brush exactly where I want it to go, nothing like that. I just want to keep tuning it, put more paint color on there to hide more of the emerald green.
Voldemort sucks. When I'm watching Bob Ross, he's using strange names for colors like Persian blue. Do you have such colors?
Prussian.
Prussian.
Prussian
Sorry.
blue.
Prussian blue. What did I say? Persian blue?
So, I mean, we do like Payne's gray, Pyrrole red. Our orange is Pyrrole orange. Even though we don't say that, we just call it orange. So yeah, I mean, a lot of our colors are really, we go with the naming convention so that you could know exactly what you're going to get, right, when you open the bottle and use it. Some of the pigment colors, while being great for artists who are used to that particular color, for the world of miniature painting doesn't mean anything. People aren't 100% sure what Prussian blue is, right? So no. And some colors, some pigments don't want to be in what we call an aqueous suspension, which is what water-based acrylics are. Some of the old world style pigments don't work as acrylics, water-based acrylics. Okay, so you can see how now our yellow only pokes out at like the brightest areas, and then it blends in with the green everywhere else. You just get this weird, almost jaundiced look.
Diggy Sniper, is Nova Orange the same as orange?
No. Totally different color. Nova Orange is more peachy. It's more of a flesh tone than anything else, believe it or not.
What's the conventional name for Nova Orange?
A conventional name?
Yeah.
Probably Faded Orange would be what I'd call it.
Faded orange, okay.
Faded orange. It's a little bit more desaturated, but it is peachy. It has almost I won't call it a pink tone to it because it doesn't, but it's desaturated. And as you do that, it makes it feel more, I always use the term bubblegum. It's a less vibrant version of orange, so I would go with like Faded, which is not a traditional like art color or art name for colors, but I like it, so I use it. When we first created the color that wound up being Faded Ultramarine, I was like, yeah, we got to just call this Faded because it looks like faded jeans. So it's Faded Ultramarine now because everybody understands what faded means once you get the context. It makes that achievable. Becomes a analog to calling something dark or bright. Now you have faded rather than desaturated.
Voldemort sucks. Can you paint on white canvases?
Can I personally, or can you, period?
I'm assuming you. I think it's a question for you.
Yeah, I can definitely paint canvas paints.
Have you, what was the last time you did something like that?
Been a long time. Been a long, long time. I have a bunch of canvases at home. One of the things we were going to do back in the day was to do some canvas painting on stream to show you more traditional painting techniques for volumes and value where you don't have a three-dimensional surface to start with, because that's such an integral part of what we do in painting miniatures is make sure that the shadow and interplay of light really stays true. And the best learning technique by far, I believe, is to paint in 2 dimensions rather than a 3-dimensional piece, because these 3-dimensional pieces, while being great, and that's why we're here, they all already cast their own shadows. So they already create a false sense of security with regards to you nailing down your volumes. I say false because depending on where your light is on your painting desk, it will throw the shadows in the same direction all the time. And as you rotate the model around, it might fool you into thinking particular parts of the model are brighter or darker than they really are. And so, learning how to set your light up in a 2-dimensional sense is great. We've done a lot of teaching on stream here over the years of, when you're going to shade a sphere, what does that look like? Well, you got to be able to picture that sphere as just a circle on the page and then move from there. How would you take a circle and turn it into a sphere in the art context? And you spend a lot of your time going to art class. That's one of the big things that you learn is how to do that, right? You've all seen the charcoal of the bowl of fruit, the apple and the glass and all that stuff. That's what all that's for.
Avian, so thank you so much for that sub. 30-month streak.
There we go.
Always appreciate it.
Starting to come together.
It's starting to come together. If you had to compare painting on canvases and painting on miniatures, which one is more difficult and require more skill? Or is probably just a difference in skill.
I truly believe that largely depends on your background in art. If you are used to creating your own scene visually, starting from a blank slate and creating the figures, drawing the sphere or drawing the circle, turning it into a sphere. If you can do human anatomy, whatever it is, if you can take a blank page, create this on it, right? Create this guy on there, right? So if you can draw and you can create this in a two-dimensional image, then I believe that you will start with your canvas painting and that traditional 2D artwork being more easily accessible to you. There are a lot of two-dimensional artists that when they start into three-dimensional art, their paint mixing and their color creation is great, but they have no idea how to manage their volumes correctly. So I've seen some amazing artists who paint like you wouldn't believe on canvas come and paint on models of all sorts and get tremendous coloring, tremendous mixes, great vibrancy where they want it, just tremendous creativity on the model. And it kind of is clown suit because their brightness and darkness don't go where they want them because they rely on the model to cast its own shadow and they just put color on that. You can't do that. You have to be able to do darker colors, mid-tone colors, and brighter colors to create a fake intensity of light and shadow on your model to become visually interesting, because you can't guarantee the light in the room that the model exists in. And so people that are used to 2 dimensions where everything is highlighted exactly the same, you start with no shadow at all on a white canvas, you have to create it all. Instead, here you pick this thing up and it already has a ton of shadow that it casts on itself, and you can get lost. You can put green on it, and the green is brighter, duller, and then darker because the model's already got shadows on it that create that effect. But you turn the model around and it all goes away. So then I think for people that have maybe less of a feel of how to create something in 2 dimensions, that model painting might be the easier way to get started and all that. But they're both totally different frames of reference, even though in technique and style that I would use when painting a canvas and painting a miniature, a lot of it is very similar.
Tax Frost is asking, do you know when PK Pro gets the Pro Crow restocked? We're hyped for our Christmas prize.
I would have to talk to distribution and find out when they did their last order. They typically order like once a quarter, once every 3 months. That's up to them 100%. We don't force them to order at any regularity. If you ever have to paint or draw another freaking bowl of freaking fruit ever again, you'll go absolutely ballistic. That's why me and art classes didn't get along, because I didn't want to draw the dumb stuff.
You don't like,
but I only thought it was dumb because I had already been published with my artwork and was already ready to learn new techniques that would help me. I was wanting to learn value and volume and line weight and what it plays in that and more in-depth things. And instead it was, here's how you draw a horse with 2 circles and a cylinder in between them and some more cylinders and some more circles. And I was like, no, you draw a horse like this. And I drew a horse. I draw a dynamic horse. And of course my professor didn't like that. So not a good way to go. They wouldn't let you, back in my day, skip art course. There wasn't a ability to go and submit your work and opt out of the initial classes for some reason.
If Jordan Horde, I tried painting a face the other day. I overglazed it, but it still turned out all right and couldn't be bothered to redo it. I was too amped for finding out that I'd be promoted to Sergeant First Class next month. Nice.
Congrats.
I picked up most of the PA line over the last year and learned so much listening to your stream over the last weeks. I love your product and everything that I've seen about your company. Keep up the good work, and I'll keep telling people to buy your stuff.
Man,
nice.
Thank you so much.
We love that.
That means the world. Like we always say, if we can just inspire a little bit of creativity on this channel and with what we do as a company, we win. That's our whole goal.
Right.
All right, I've done about as much as I can do with this color without turning the cloak into this color, which is not my goal. Might be a couple of places where if I go with it a little less thin, I can kind of pull out some of these details a little bit better. But because all the paint I've used to this point has been very, very liquid, very thin, I don't have a ton of detail kept on like the little strands of hair and stuff. Right? We can see the sculpt, but I don't have a ton of detail there. So I want to start going with a much brighter color now, and that's going to be
Number 17.
Sorry.
Oh my
Sorry.
gosh.
Sorry, I just have such good colors to show you.
They're so great.
I just have such great things to show you. You ever seen Event Horizon? Oh, I have such things to show you.
You're all just tuning in. We're doing the fur cloak workup today.
Right.
With 50% of the colors.
Like that. All the colors you can't buy.
Yes, I guess that's one way of putting it.
So Chris will have to make this part of his video tutorials for a later date.
Question. I watched the video on transparents. Are they like wash? How do you use them to shift a tone?
Much like a glaze, in that you would thin them down and put them over the top of whatever color you were trying to shift, right? So now I'm having to pick out individual clumps of hair, by the way. Notice. So we'll be doing a lot of this. Get ready. This is the scale gel part. But yeah, if you're familiar with the technique called glazing, where you thin a color down so that you can then put it over the top of another one and maintain some of both, right? Because with typical opaque paint, like when you paint the walls of your house, that opaque paint, what your hope is that it covers everything that was on the wall already, right? So, they make paint that will cover over wallpaper. It's so opaque, right? So you'll do one roller worth of it on a checkerboard wallpaper and the checks go away, right? That's one way of painting when you go at full opacity. So there's a want that does that. Glazing is finding a dilution with water or thinner that makes the paint, when you put it over it, you can still see some of the checks through it, right? And that's what we're doing here is we're glazing. The transparents start out as already a translucence of a glaze, but the thickness of a paint, and very, very vibrant. So right now, if I wanted to make these shadows a little bit more blue, I could take transparent blue, thin it down, and put it into the shadows. It would let a little bit of the green that's here show through, and then it would turn the rest a very blue color. So that's how you shift a hue or accent a hue, right? If you've painted in, say, yellow, you could put the red transparent or the orange transparent over the top to warm it up a bunch, right? If your yellow was too cold, wasn't exactly the color you thought you wanted, whatever. They'll let you kind of course correct your colors. It does require a little bit more of a thought process in terms of how one particular color influences another in standard color theory sense. But as long as you have even a slight understanding, or like me, you have less understanding and more, I don't care, I'm going to do it anyway, then just start putting them together. Start putting one color over another. Have fun.
Jason painting individual bits of hair. I'm having Shinobi flashbacks.
Oh, God, yes.
Lumberjack Tim, you ever finish the Shinobi? I think you did.
Other than the scabbard, yeah. She has a scabbard for the katana that she's holding in one hand. And we never did the scabbard. It's in raw resin in a bag someplace around here. I don't know what the part is.
Monument Hobbies, I have a question about glazing. Why are dark colors hard to be glazed and bright colors become simply like water?
Why are dark colors hard to glaze and light colors become like water?
Yeah.
So let's back up and let's talk about glazing, right? We do a lot around here. Believe it or not, all the colors kind of glaze similarly. what happens with bright colors is that you see the contrast that they make a lot sooner, right? The dark colors don't create as much contrast. I mean, they can if you're glazing into the shadows and such. But bright colors create a ton of contrast, so you will see any imperfections in your brushwork quicker as you glaze your bright colors on. Some people will say, oh, they get chalky, they do this, they do that. All of the colors that you're glazing with in that technique that you're using will get that same imperfection. You just won't see it with the dark colors. Make sense? So I don't know what you mean by bright colors become like water. That's just a matter of how much you're thinning it. If you're thinning with water like I do most of the time, then they will lower in viscosity. They'll become runnier and runnier and runnier. That will give you a very hard time controlling the pigment on the surface, which may be what you mean, so that you find the colors kind of skating and running into crevices, and then the bright colors are in the shadow areas, and you don't want that. So a lot of what you'll see me do, we talk about my thumb palette a lot on here. You'll notice that every time before I go to the model when using thin paints, and sometimes when using just regular paints, depending on what I'm doing, I will take a lot of the material off on my thumb. And that's so that I'm limiting the amount of moisture on my brush so that when I touch the model, I don't flood it with watery substance, right? Because you're right, the paint gets thinner and more like water the more we dilute it. And by diluting it more and more to get that see-through capability, you're going to have to fight it if you're not careful. And that will cause the bright colors to give you hell, just plain and simple. They won't be fun to use. So wick a lot of it off. Here, I'll show you. If I wanted to create a glaze, like a thin glaze with this color, which this color is not ultra bright, but it's pretty bright. Unload this. And I got on here on the model here.
Using medium glaze in the white color because it's transparent, and for black, I add a lot more.
Okay. Well, the intensity of the pigment, again, it depends on what you're putting it over. Like if you're putting black over a light color, it can have as much contrast as white over, another color would. The difference is that white doesn't want to glaze over black. Black will glaze much better over white. White, when you get it thin, will make a real hazy gray over black, and you'll never get up to white because you're too dark. You need to build up to a color that's almost white and then glaze your white over the top of that. Same for all bright colors. So when you're glazing bright colors, you're not going to glaze a bright color over a dark color in very many instances. You're going to glaze a bright color over a semi-bright color, right? You're going to build up from your dark color to your mid-tone to your highlight, and then glaze over your highlight with your brightest highlight. Right, so you have call it a base highlight and a highlight. Okay, so you're stacking colors, and then glazing bright colors becomes very simple because all they do is brighten the last bright color that you put on there another step. So for an instance, I would paint this as a highlight, maybe this yellow, and then I would glaze over it with this to brighten it up to get to my highlight. Right, and then I might go with something like bright pale yellow to glaze over that. So this would be a great combo of colors. But I would start with this yellow. I would paint this one normally over the top, and then I would glaze the bright color here because these two colors will play very well together when I glaze one over the other. Okay, either direction. I can glaze this over this to create a shadow, and it'll look really good. I can glaze this over this to create a highlight, and it'll look really good. If I glaze this over this, it's going to be tough because this gets too dark. And you can imagine if I glaze this over this, it's going to be very watery and never give me the color I want. The mix of these two is never going to happen, right? So you don't want to glaze bright over dark, but you can glaze dark over bright because I can use this to create a shadow if this were my color. If I were making some sort of a dirty desert stormtrooper and this was my color, I could glaze this back over it and create a shadow, but you are going to have to tune this down because it'll have a major impact, as you can imagine. So you'll thin this down a lot more in order to get the shadow the way you want, and then do layers to build it up to the darkness you want. So it's always better to over thin and have to apply a couple more coats than to not thin enough and have something like this happen where I put this over this and now it looks like a racing stripe. So that may be what you're experiencing from what I'm hearing. Kind of a combo of using the thumb palette and
If y'all just tuning in, welcome in. We are continuing with the fur cloak today. You can watch the progress of this model over the last couple weeks. Started with the face, then went into the hair, then did the black armor, then went into some non-metallic gold. Then we worked on the emblems, and now we're here.
Painting 1 million follicles of hair.
Now, are you just randomly picking some of these follicles, or do you have any rhyme or reason?
I'm following where I have my bright color here mostly. So notice where, my brighter folds from the beginning where I put the yellow over the warm brown. That all still exists. And so I'm starting there and picking them out. That's what I've done up here. And then what I'm doing is, like, here was the bright side. So I'll do all of the little plugs of hair that come out of that brighter area. And then as they come down, I'll just pick out a couple in random succession. Because the weird thing with hair is that it doesn't all lay nice and neat and smooth, right? Like, think when you get up and you get bedhead, right? You got hair going off in weird directions. So I'll pick a couple to highlight in and amongst the shadow to give it that feel that certain hairs are poking out further from the bunch than others. Hair is a fun thing to paint because of that, because it allows us to kind of, pick and choose how we do this. I can put a little bit of brightness there, maybe there. I don't want to make it too much, but I can continue to just kind of pull little specks of brightness around like that. Nice. And now that gives it the texture of fur, because that fur isn't going to be even. Right? I do want to make sure that anything that's up towards the top is fairly bright. It can still have little patches of darkness on it too, to give it that same feel, but you definitely want to make it brighter as it points up towards your light source. Right.
One last question for Voldemort. You can always ask questions. We love them. Are you considered to doing any painting tutorials with painting mostly with airbrush?
We do a lot of airbrush. I have personally not done a ton of it on stream in the past months, believe it or not.
Yeah, I was trying to remember. We haven't done that in a minute.
I've been focused on models and things where we've been doing techniques that are more focused on brushwork. But yeah, we do a lot with airbrush. Stick around. There'll be a lot to be had. I'll probably go over and find a model here soon that I can dive in with airbrushing and work at least the base coats into it with some blends and stuff. I typically use the airbrush early in the model and late in the model. Right, I'll use it to put my base coats on, and then I'll use it to smooth some of my blends in the late stages of the model as well.
Dingo.
So yeah, we can teach you a lot.
Oh, Nicholas Gardner. I'm currently having a painting issue where my two Pro Acryl colors are separating on my wet palette. I've never had that happen before. Could it be that it's too wet of a wet palette or poor mixing medium?
Too wet, usually. The pigment will start to pull away. You can just stir it back up and it'll blend fine. There's nothing that it changes consistency-wise in the paint. But yeah, if you float our paints in too much water, then they will, certain colors especially, dark gray blue is a big culprit there, dark warm gray, right? A couple of pigments that are a little bit more prone to that than others. But yeah, you can just stir it back up. And unless, of course, it's overly wet, and then you're stirring it back up and you're getting a lot more water in there, and then, of course, you're diluting your paint. So the wet palette should never be wet on the top of the paper. The only wetness on the top of the paper should be your paint. All of the wetness should be below the surface of the palette paper. 100%. Don't care what anybody says. There's very few things I say on this channel that I say definitive, and that's one of them. The wet palette is an imperfect science. It can do great things for you, but you have to play with it correctly, and you got to use a dry sheet on top, and it needs to then be able to have that permeable surface, just let enough water through to replace what's evaporating out of your paint. So keep it a little drier. We've shown on the channel a bunch of times. Jordan paints with a wet palette. I paint with a dry palette. But anytime we do wet palette prep, the big thing is to make sure that you wet the palette paper to saturation point, which for wax paper is going to be hard to see. It's not like a sponge. It doesn't just get all wet where you can wring it out, right? Most of the palette paper isn't like that. So you're going to have to play with it and just know that you got it wet on top and bottom. Then just kind of, I literally squeeze mine like a paper towel and roll it up like a paper towel. Make sure that it gets all the wetness in it, crinkle it up. Then I lay it out flat and I use a ruler and I squeegee all the water out of it. And then I set it on my wet floating sponge. That's how you know you're starting with a piece of paper that can accept water through it, right? You need to kind of kickstart the paper so that water can travel through the permeable membrane. It won't just do it if the paper's dry, but it also won't do it if the paper's wet on top. It has to be in that nice in between, which is why I say it's a very imperfect science.
Going back a couple, Dingo the Gringo. Hey, I've been seeing a lot of this John Blanche and these fanatic color palettes. I'm curious what you think of the palette and this guy. I am not very familiar with him, and I'm curious why this color palette seems so popular recently.
It's because of the word grimdark. It's all marketing. It's colors that exist in our line already, so for us, we just don't need a name on it. He painted with a very almost Zorn palette, yellow ochre, reds, oranges, things like that, blacks, very little blue and green. So it's a very almost, not monochromatic, but it feels monochromatic. And what it does is it gives a very dystopian feel to things. It puts a lens on your painting. It's a technique that you can do with whatever colors you have. And it's just a limited color palette. And you think in terms of the environment that we consider to be grimdark, and you say, okay, well, John Blanche and a lot of what he did for 40K had that kind of looks like it's on old parchment look. I think that was kind of what he was going for in the early days, because there was a lot of like the parchment scrolls and the Inquisition and the ecclesiarchy and everything was on old parchment, and then there was metal. So you had like parchment and metal, and that's what 40K was born out of, was that fire of the melding of that. And so you have a lot of that color scheme there, right? So yeah, there's a lot of people that, but it's just marketing. We've painted with those colors for decades.
Bear's asking, trying to get the Gene Stealer purple skin, thinking PA purple and PA plum? Gene Stealers?
Could be, yep. The last Gene Stealer I painted was years ago, and it was like blue skin. But yeah, the purple works great. The dark plum in there as shadows could be really neat with the dark purple, and then go to like the purple out of that. So many choices, right? It goes back to the question about like the John Blanche palette, right? It's like, okay, well, here's the problem, right? No set of colors is going to make you paint in a particular way. Every set of colors gives you an opportunity to find colors and ways to paint with them that you really enjoy. Does that make sense? Kind of a very zen way to think about it, but you may like the grimdark paint style. No color palette is going to make you paint that way, because it's just as much an application of that color onto the model as it is the colors themselves. If you hang out here long enough, you'll realize that we are not while we're a company that makes colors, when I teach, I talk to you more about the fact that it is not the color that's important. So if you come in here and you like what we're painting and you say, hey, what color did you use for those golds? If you don't know how I applied the colors to get the effect that you see that you like, telling you the colors isn't going to help you at all, right? It's the way the paint goes down from dark paint to light paint, or light paint to dark paint, depending on how you like, that's going to make all the difference. You could take the same, like when I think grimdark, I think just nasty, gritty. We just painted some Trench Crusade minis, and this to me, the setting is grimdark, right? The vibe is grimdark. My color palette is very dirty and limited in that it doesn't give you a lot of range of vibrancy. It's all muted like it would be if you were tromping through the mud, right? And so when we paint this way, says the same thing, but not using a particular color palette. To me, it's more of a, okay, what environment, what vibe are you trying to invoke when I look at this? Is it supposed to be gritty and dirty and covered in mud and grime? Then you're going to want to choose colors that are indicative to you Not necessarily, maybe to the world at large if you're making this to show the world, but if you're making it for you, what do you consider to be mud and grime? For some people, that's greens and browns, right? For some people, that can be yellows and reds, right? You can think marsh and earth, right? Or you can think greens and browns like jungle mud, right? It depends. Now you're creating environments and storytelling, and color is secondary or tertiary to that, to where your brain starts cloning in on what am I trying to do, right? What vibe am I trying to present to people as they're looking at it? So. Starting to get the feel of what I'm doing back here. We still get that emerald, warm brown, and that yellow showing through, but now it gives us a really weird coloration for our cloak, right? And now remember, my goal is to make this almost like a old, what did we say? An old golden retriever.
Yeah,
right?
Like an old golden retriever.
An old golden retriever, to where it's kind of going gray, right? But you can tell it used to be golden. That's what I want here, because I don't want it to interfere too much with the other yellows we're going to have for his blonde beard and hair and the gold on the shoulder plates. It'll probably interfere more with the gold on the shoulder plates than anything. So we'll have to play around with it. But my thought is that over the top of this, I'm going to do warm gray or bright warm gray, because it's kind of a greenish color.
Gag Welch, seriously, I've yet to see a recording that's great. Always appreciate that. Is that a 75 mil scale figure?
Oh,
we were talking about that the other day.
We tried to measure it the other day. It's not. It's you know, it's hard with busts, because if you were to take the theory of scaling, you'd go from the eye line to the foot. And since we don't have a foot for him, he would be probably a 300 millimeter, maybe 250 millimeter figure. So the bust is much bigger. It is about 60 millimeters tall. And about, I think we determined about 100 millimeters, 90 to 100 millimeters wide. It's a pretty big boy.
Yeah.
You know, next to like a standard Space Marine, to give you a feel of it. Mm-hmm. Right. He's a big chonky bust. A lot of fun to paint. From Artel W. We've been kind of humorously calling him Antonio El Tigre. Tony the Tiger. Just have some fun with him.
Bear, OMG, what did you do with his feet? Got rid of them.
I told you, I've been telling you for years I'm a lazy painter. I cut all my models off halfway.
Just cut them all now.
I just cut them all down. It's less for me to have to paint, less for me to suffer through, quicker for you guys to see me paint something new. Works. It's a win-win for everybody.
Welch, I need to paint something bigger. I've only painted Bretonnia and Sisters of Battle so far. Looks much easier and fun to work with.
So, scale can really be a great tool to teach you new things. It's why we make our texture trainers, right? We make this line of models called our texture trainers. They're resin, 3D print resins that I come up with the artwork, and we have William Tsang do the sculpting. And then they're printed out on 60 millimeter circles. So it's a 60 millimeter circle, right? It's only the front, which is really cool because it allows you to deal with larger textures without having to worry about how to maneuver your color around to the back of the model and stuff. So it's kind of a interim step from going to painting, you know, wargaming models or D&D models into painting something larger. And we call them texture trainers because they give you a lot of materials, right? My whole goal when designing these is I give you flesh, I give you something crazy like mushrooms, bone, cloth, right? Chicken's feet, some skulls, you know, a demon where the flesh could be totally different from the human, some metal, right? Hair, right? So you get a lot to play with here that allows you the ability to go in and, like we're talking about, create storytelling moments where you're learning how to paint, learning how to move your brush to make smooth blends for things like metal and coarser blends for things like cloth. So they really are meant to teach you, you know, how to do all of that stuff. And there's 4 of those currently that we have done. We've got the the warrior, a female medieval-ish axe-wielding warrior. The hunter, which is a sci-fi bounty hunter. And then the crone that I just showed you. All a lot of fun to paint. We also have, which I don't have in here, the Nova Open, limited edition Nova Open one that will be available each year, and right now it's the Salamander. The Salamander will only be available till the Nova Open this year, by the way, which is in September, and it'll change over to the new one that we have to start designing here pretty quick. There will only be a commemorative yearly model for Nova, and then after it's gone, it's gone. We won't make them anymore. Unless Nova demands it. I guess they're the ones that, I guess they could make me change my mind on that.
If you're all just tuning in, welcome in. We are continuing with the fur cloak today. If you have questions, be sure to tag Monument Hobby so I see them. Last week we did some non-metallic gold and the emblems on this guy. The week before we did the black armor workup along with the face. So he's really coming together.
2 hours at a time.
Hobbybot. So is the Nova Orange going to be limited as well?
No, it's a permanent addition to the line. I say, yeah, it's a pretty much a permanent addition to the line. Even if for some reason Nova Open dissolved and went away, we would keep the color in the line. So.
Ghost under my retirement plan is hoarding Nova Open texture trainers.
Let me know how that works out for you.
Tell us if there's some.
I would love to know that in our journey to create cool hobby nerd stuff, that we have also made a couple of speculators rich beyond their wildest dreams. Something tells me that's not a thing, but you do you, Bo. Surprise me.
Just now joining in, what colors are being used for the fur?
Oh, God. An amalgam of, like, mud colors, right?
We had warm brown.
Started with a base of warm brown.
Mm-hmm.
Moved into a color that is, we're going to call it warm yellow, so that you can work off of colors that you can get in our line. It's a new color coming out at Adepticon that currently is called Yellow Number 7.
Yellow number 7.
But it's warm. It's a warmer warm yellow. So warm yellow won't quite get you here. It's not as orangey as this. That's almost an orange yellow. But that was over the warm brown. And what that did is that set up the warm highlights across all the tops of the folds. You can see the brighter areas are continuing to be that color. Then I went in with dark emerald, which I've hidden from myself now. I swear I put it back.
Did you put it on your front palette here?
No. I put it back.
Hold.
Yeah, I did. I put it in the wrong hole. Dark emerald. Dark emerald I did in the shadows, right? So that I get this kind of bluish green in the shadows. That gives it kind of a kind of a gross look, to be honest with you, like a moldy, gross look, right? So the dark emerald for shadows. And then I went over the top of that with a color called 18. I would use khaki out of our current line. I would use khaki. Or light umber would work very well, actually. It'd be a little bit darker, but it would also work. Bone would work out of our current line. Something in that range.
Bone?
And then now I'm doing yellow 17.
These are not dye
This
colors.
is more the khaki color. So I retrace my comment about khaki from the previous one. This is where you'd use khaki. It won't be quite as yellow as this, so.
Nicholas is asking, will the new colors be available individually, or will you need to buy the sets?
They'll be available individually, just like all the paints. You can buy them how you like. Yeah, we try not to put anything in a weird situation where you can only buy it as... I don't think we have anything you can only buy as a set, do we?
Mm-mm.
Definitely no colors. That would be counterproductive, because when you run out of a color, if you didn't use all the other colors in the set, you'd be messed. That would not make you a happy camper. We're trying to create happy campers. Yeah, you can always do that, and they'll always be able to be bought with. Well, I say that these 24. I think they'll also go into the bundle pricing to where you could buy on our site. We have what we call your BYOB, build your own bundle, and once you get to 8 colors, you get the same set discount price that you would get if they were in a set. So you can basically go in and say, I just want all your flesh tones, and you can put all the flesh colors together, and you'll get a set price. Create your own set. The reason we do that is because I never know as well as you do as an artist what colors you want. You may be doing a project that's coming up and you may not want to have to buy 3 sets of paint to get the 8 colors you need. So instead, just put the colors you want together and then you get the same benefit of the set pricing, which is so nice to get going.
Welch is asking, are you thinning all of these or just a wet palette?
I don't use a wet palette. I use dry piece of paper. And I'm only thinning with the wetness on my brush currently, which is not much for what I'm doing right now. I'm going to go to palette cam real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just using a piece of paper. Here's the paint I'm using right now.
Yep.
So I'll literally I won't even rinse my brush from that last one. Just come over and get some, there's no water there or anything. Then I come back over if you want to swap back. Then I come back over and I take a bunch of it off on my finger. And then, boom.
That's another video I've been working on.
The thumb palette one.
One palette to rule them all.
Oh, nice. And then I'm just kind of lightly hitting the model. So I'm not getting big, heavy, opaque hits on the model because I'm not doing a lot of heavy-handed application here. I'm just kind of barely letting the sides, it's almost like dry brushing with a wet brush. Just letting the brush kind of nip into some of these tufts of hair. Give little pokes of light. Again, even in the shadows, so I can kind of make it to where you get the feeling that the hair is not all laying specifically flat, right? It pokes out at certain angles away from one another and randomness that hair does that gives it its gleam and sheen. And then just bulk up again towards my highlights.
Welch, are all the live streams scheduled? Yep, they are scheduled from 2 to 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We stream on YouTube and Twitch Monday through Friday. You know, sometimes there'll be some times where something happens and it might be Jordan on stream with me or Jason on stream with me, but mostly it's Jason, but every Monday through Friday, 2 to 4 p.m.
We also have Jordan. If you're new around here, Jordan is our other studio artist.
Mm-hmm.
And he will be continuing on streams on Friday, even though I wound up not leaving town.
Yep, last Friday we did 5 Space Marine models in 2 hours.
How'd that go? Good?
Great.
I thought they were great.
I just love we really utilized the noosh. If you all really want to see.
Yeah, between the noosh and the colors from Colorforge just makes that whole thing so easy.
Oh yeah, it was people are really liking it too, because like when you see it with an application like that, it's like, oh shoot.
You start get it. You start to get how quick your armies are now going to come to life.
even if you built your whole army, chat, and then you did that prime with the Zenithal like we did, your army looks almost done. And then it's just, anyway, so definitely is a way to really open up your mind on how to get things done sooner than later too. It's very cool.
Yeah, we get a lot of people asking us all the time, how do you do things when you want to paint a whole army quick? And, you know, that's one of my hardest questions to answer because I don't like painting armies very much. I love the idea of painting armies. I am not very good at doing it, which is one of the reasons why on stream every now and then we'll have a deal where it's like a challenge for Jason and I have to paint an army in 7 days.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm starting to enjoy I'm starting to enjoy painting armies more now that I'm not too worried about the outcome. And I'm just enjoying the process.
Yeah.
Because the games they're fun, but it's more about just, hey, you got some big project done. It feels great.
Oh yeah.
Now it's not like super perfect, but I don't care.
Well,
Like,
the question is, did it have to be?
yeah,
Because
right.
it could have to be. You might be the person that's like, yeah, it has to be. Otherwise, I'm not going to be happy with it. Perfect. Make yourself happy. Put in the time, put in the work, make it the best army on the planet. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But also thinking that in order to paint an army has to be perfect every time, that can be its own limiter that winds up driving you bananas.
Mm-hmm.
That's my problem, right? Is that every army I paint has to be, like display quality top to bottom.
Yeah.
Because I just don't have fun painting the other way. Although then I say that, and then we did like the Lumineth, 2,000 points of Lumineth in a week.
And they look great on the table.
And I love them on the table. They look great. And I didn't even finish them.
Well,
like,
I mean,
we didn't even paint skin.
What's like finished, right? They looked great.
Yeah.
They had an amazing 3-foot roll.
We based them.
Yeah.
And basing, you'd be surprised at how much basing changes the look of your army. If you do just a quick basing layer, mid-tone, and then dry brush highlight and wash, and then you do a nice basing material on your models, oh my God, they look so much better. It's like, spend time with the basing, get some good material down there, put a tuft on each of them. Oh my God, it's life-changing. Your army just feels finished even before. And paint the ring of the base. You paint the trim of the base, a nice black, satin black on the ring of all your bases, and a little bit of the tuft, and there you go. You feel like a hero, and you're not even done.
A good example of that is on your pink bear. Have like there's
this was something where he didn't even. I mean, what is this even? Right? This is just something where in order to make the model look finished, I wanted it on a wasteland base. So we literally just put some of our basing material down, some of the fine and some of the coarse. Oh, actually, it's the concrete. And then some of the coarse.
It's concrete and then coarse.
Concrete
right?
And then coarse for the little, the concrete is the base and all the texture on the main part of the base. And the coarse is the little piles of rock. And then a couple tufts. That's it. Boom. Done. It looks like tribbles stuck in dirt. Right? But I love it. It makes it super easy to just be ready to go.
Yeah.
And then you get, your model looks done. Paint the rim satin black. Ta-da. No, this model was done anyway, so it doesn't really fit the narrative. But you get what I'm saying.
Anti-Fine Painting, sub for 71 months. Whoa.
That is awesome. You have a Leviathan box set you're using to learn skills and just experimenting with colors and techniques. Awesome. Yeah, fantastic. We've used a lot of the models out of there for that exact same thing.
Another really cool workup.
Yeah, exactly. My kind of Care Bear.
For those Tyranids, a really fun workup. 2 workups for Imperial. This is the Color Forge sprays. Imperial purple as you prime them all in Imperial purple, and then you use white bone as the Zenithal. That's also a really cool color combo.
Ooh, all right, yeah. All right, bright warm gray. Bright warm gray is going to be our. I mean, you can see how much brighter that is, even than the last color that we used. But it's going to push it into that kind of grayish hair, but it still has a greenish tint to it, which is going to play well with the yellow to not make it look like we're just painting white for gray hair, right? We talk about hair being gray, and then you want to reach for a gray color to paint gray hair, but having something that isn't quite that, pure gray is most of the time going to be your best bet. Depends on your backdrop. You may want a cool gray if you're doing blues. I'm going to go with a warm gray because it does have something that keeps in line with the yellow, and the colors around it will help it accent more than you can imagine. Now we got to do the deets and doots style detailing here. I want the yellows to live on this model, so I don't want to cover them up. Right? But I also have very little patience for painting every little hair. We're going to do our best here. You guys are going to give me the attaboys to keep going. And again, I'm not thinning this paint much at all. Because I want it to have the initial impact with every brush stroke, so I don't have to go back and paint these hairs again. Imagine if I were to glaze this color on and have to do it twice or 3 times.
You got this, Jason. Only 5,000 strands left.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for the vote of confidence there.
Hey, that's why we're here.
So much hair.
You did this one to yourself.
Also true. It is nice when the sculpt has this kind of a detailed sculpting of hair, because otherwise you'd be painting this on here, right?
I was going to say, or what about dry brushing it? Maybe, but now
you could definitely dry brush this. You would want to have done that earlier in the model's life,
I see
that you didn't dry brush his face and armor and all that.
Good point.
That's why I'm not really attacking it with a dry brush, but a dry brush would be great here. This sculpt is made for it almost, right?
That back.
If you were use like our DD1, the small one, and spent some time getting in here, detail it all in these crevices and such, or doing what I'm doing now with a little bit lighter touch. I don't know if you can get lighter than this. Technically what I'm doing is like dry brushing, but I'm having to, actually paint down the length of the hair.
Ghost Hunter, did Jason say DA 100? No,
that's not what I said.
I never even used it though. It was pretty cool.
Never used that. Don't know what you're talking about. Horrible hack job that was done in my stead.
I don't know.
When I was having a vacation, I think. I don't even know what I was doing, but
you were driving,
taken advantage of.
You were here, and I was driving back from San Diego with Jordan.
Incorrect.
No, actually, Jordan wasn't even there too. Gabe and I were in San Diego driving back.
See, chat. He just
chat.
Back me up, chat.
Back me up, chat. Dingo the Gringo. Do you and Jason ever paint the same model? And I think you're referencing to Jordan, and they did a Horus challenge. Yeah. I think that was Jordan's first week here.
Jordan's first model that he painted in the studio was a challenge that we did. His first day at work was at Adepticon. And at Adepticon, we went in, and they had at GW, they of course had the Horus Ascended model. And so we both painted Horus Ascended. I'm only going to show you mine because it was the best. Right? And so we painted Horus Ascended. And we both did it on screen together in the same amount of time. And it was a lot of fun. And you could not, they're not absolutely different, but, our color choices were different on everything. Jordan's vibrant paint style versus my grim and gritty, desaturated battlefield style paint style really stand apart from one another and were great fun. So we had a blast doing them.
Yep.
And a great model, too. A lot of fun. But I think that's the last time we did that. We both painted Space Marines and all that stuff. But
you've painted similar things like Trench Crusade.
Yeah, we both. He painted the Heretic Legion while I was doing the Trench Pilgrims for Trench Crusade. So we'll paint, same games and things like that. But we've really enjoyed in the past doing those kind of painter versus painter thing. So that could be a lot of fun to do more of. We definitely see models all the time where we're like, oh. What if we did that one?
Well, Dingo the Gringo, that's rad. I was thinking more like you paint a part of a model and leave him with a challenge to finish it.
Oh.
You did that with Hulk
dastardly.
A little bit.
What's that?
You did that with Hulk, I think, a little bit.
He finished the base on Hulk?
And the little, what's it called? The little toll.
No, I painted the toll thing.
Oh, you painted the toll thing. Got it. you're all just tuning in, we started the fur cloak at the beginning of stream today. I've been working on this guy the last couple weeks. Started with the face and hair, moved over to the non-metallic black armor, then into some non-metallic gold, then into the emblem. Then now we're doing some fur. Who painted Hulk's tutu? That was made by Shelby.
Very poorly made, I'll point it out. Not even the right scale.
It was quite magnificent on him, though. Very, it's like, to scale, it would have been a massive tutu.
Yeah.
Like, almost like one of those, like, kids' party things where they throw it up in the air.
It was crazy. I was so delighted when she did it, though. It was great.
That tutu's right here on this desk.
Oh, do you have it?
It's right here.
How funny.
I just found it when I was cleaning up the stream the other day. Hulk likes to show off. Yeah, he does.
Hulk, stylish one there is.
Hoosier, did you see the new EC stuff from LVO?
What is EC?
What is it? Oh, gosh darn it. Emperor's Children.
Oh, no. Don't care. Heretics.
Heretics. Guess
Don't
who
care.
liked those?
Aaron.
Jordan.
Aaron and Jordan will paint all of them.
Now,
Heretics all.
I don't like giving free clout, but those new Borrow Knights, dope looking.
Is that for Soul Blight?
For Soul Blight, the army I just finished.
Yeah, I was going to say, your skeletons just got a lot cooler.
Yeah, they did.
Because they made them all like the death rattle from Warcry.
Yep.
Or Underworlds, whatever that game is called.
Yeah, the Borrow Knights are actually pretty dope. But, those GW Graveguard models are old. Wad. Had to step away. Did anyone mention that the biggest difference between Baby J and Fuse's Horus is that Fuse's was finished?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
See? Got him. Hope he's not over in
listening
the
in.
other side of the building watching the stream. That would be awkward. Baby J, I love you, Baby J. You know I love you. I feel like that could be a lion-ish
Oh,
pelt.
yeah. Absolutely. Are you guys in the USA? Yep, we are.
Phoenix, Arizona.
Phoenix, Arizona. Jason looking great.
Yeah, I said I wasn't going to try to fight another yellow in there, but I'm really happy with it, so I might leave it.
Looks great.
I like that the green is really what I was keying in on. That emerald makes the whole thing move away from, even though we use dark yellow green as a base on the rest of the gold, the orange oxide is really what you see the most of on the gold shoulder plate, gorget, and all the detailing. And so it allows us the ability to move this cloak away from all of that with that emerald green. Makes the shadow color a little bit different. Keeps it feeling like a different material.
Source, any opinions on dirty down weathering stuffs? Also, any tips on making verdigris and not looking so painted on? Be it dirty down or using turquoise paints?
For me, I don't know anything about their products. Obviously, I don't use, I say obviously, it might not be obvious. I don't use anything except Monument, this company called Monument Hobbies. You might have heard of it. But the way to do verdigris is really, again, kind of that over thin. Really use the thin glaziness of it to get into the crevices and such, and then layer it how you like and build it up as you go. It's that patience and taking some time. I don't know that there's a silver bullet way to do it that works great. The closest that I could say is our method, like we do rust, where you do all of the verdigris colors underneath and then dry brush a metallic over the top. Mm-hmm. That works spectacularly. And I think Jordan did a bronze video. Don't we have a short for doing that with bronze?
Yeah.
So yeah, he does like a verdigris bronze where he does that particular method on our. You can find that on our YouTube. And oh my God, it works so good. I think there's also a methodology for it. That's going to be the closest I can give you to like a super simple way that will work and feel good, look good.
Yeah, Jordan did the dry brush method, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, where you do the verdigris colors as almost a splotchy base coat. And then you come back and dry brush your metallic over the top, which gives them pushes the verdigris underneath, which again, not the right way to do it. Like rust, the verdigris sits on top. It is the oxidation of that copper layer. So it's not really realistic to have it underneath the metal, but it looks so good that I don't know that I would worry about it. Nobody's going to complain. Anybody that complains, you don't need that negativity in your life. Can we get a super zoom? How about them apples?
Nice. It's looking great.
Yeah, just super simple brush strokes. Making sure I keep to just the top clumps of the hair so that as it rolls into the shadows, I still maintain that darkness and mid-tone for the yellows and stuff that I've used. I think that works pretty well. I like it. Now his face has to get a lot brighter. Because now his face, the first thing we painted was his face. And it's not like the darkest thing on the armor, even more so than the black armor itself. So his face and hair have to be highlighted to match everything else, which is exactly why we did that, why we kept the face at kind of the, between 50 and 70%, I never know what to call it, level of done. And then we move into finishing it once all of the brighter parts of the model, like metal's going to reflect more than the skin unless the skin is oiled up or, sweaty or some sort of a wetness to it that's going to reflect more light, as long as you have like a polished surface or something else in the scene. He just came off vacation, just got back from the Bahamas. All right, so I'm happy with the cloak. We're going to leave that alone for now. And what time is it, Chris? We got 15 minutes?
15 minutes. I
think we can start putting some brightness on the skin. I think that's what we're going to do, gang. And I'm just going to start in with dark warm flesh.
So what are you essentially doing here, Jason? You're bringing something back into the flesh?
Yeah, I'm just going to start in with dark warm flesh. Very, very thin. And I'll start brightening up the level of color on the skin. I've got warm flesh here, dark warm flesh. I've got bright shadow flesh. But I think I'm going to start with dark warm flesh. It's still going to be a bright enough color. I might take a little bit of the advanced flesh tone that we did the glaze work with and put it on my palette so I can mix it in as I need with it. And I reserve the right to change this as I go. This is my show, dang it. Actually, let's take the warm flesh and the advanced flesh tone, and I'll mix those together on the palette. That'll give me a little bit more control to keep it towards the advanced flesh tone that we've used since we did the glaze over the undertones. All right. So, get my brush wet, Then I've got a little bit of advanced flesh tone, pull that down. A little bit of warm flesh, pull that down. Give me a brighter version of advanced flesh tone there. It's pretty thin. I want it to be able to glaze. That's still probably a little thick. So get a little bit more water on my brush. Pull those in. Boom. It gives me a pretty good color. Feels very controllable. Unfortunately, it's the feels very controllable part that is the key. And remember, we've pulled through painting all of these other elements. We pulled our brightness location over to his left shoulder, our right. So that's where I'm going to start, is I'm going to start just kind of sketching in a little bit of brightness over here on the forehead, where I know my highlight is intended to be. Not worried about blending right now. Bit of the nose. And immediately brightened up that side. Again, cheek. Laugh line.
Deadbeat Artist, this is a mixture of advanced flesh tone and warm flesh.
About 50-50, I'll call it. And glaze it up from the shadows the same way I did the advanced flesh tone earlier. Since this whole side of the face will wind up becoming brighter, that'll help ensure I don't wind up with just a very dark line and some sort of reverse raccooning going on the mask of his face. Notice how that cheek is not much brighter than the other one. And I'll just keep doing this with this coloring. Every time I go back to the palette, I'll put a little bit more of both of those colors in. I don't care if the color gets a little brighter or darker each time I do it. I can adjust that on the model. I'm always going to get close if I just start thinking in terms of 50-50, let's call it. And I probably will have a little touch of brightness over on this side. Make sure I got enough moisture off my brush. Pinch of the eye over here. And the lack of sleep bags he's got going on. I got to think about eyebrows too. I don't know. They don't really look sculpted on very well, but it doesn't mean we don't have to think about them.
Does he have? He has eyebrows, doesn't he?
Yeah. Going right over this scar, down into the purple area here.
If you all need a reminder on where this skin was, that was a couple weeks back now.
Keep glazing across the forehead towards my bright spot. That just brightened the face up tremendously just by doing that one side. And see how much brighter my cheek is over here versus this side. So it's creating a shadow already. I'm going to continue to put a little bit of brightness on this cheek, running down towards the length of the laugh line here. and letting it become darker as we work over towards the temple. Notice the direction of my brush is always from the shadow to the highlight. One of the biggest mistakes people make is going and painting from the highlight to the shadow. That'll drop off way more paint than you want in the dark spots.
Monster X Wow, first time chat, welcome in. OMG, he's insane. Yeah, they've been, if you want to know the workup on the face, we posted that a couple weeks ago. No, or a week ago.
Yeah, last Monday.
Yep, last Monday.
A week ago today, as a matter of fact. A little bit lighter. Again, my thumb palette allows me not only to remove the paint, but also to continually check my mix to see how I'm liking my color and my brightness. The brightest spot will be this glow on the forehead here, so I'll continue to bring paint over here in kind of a thin radial pattern to match the spherical nature of the forehead. Gonna get a little bit on the hair, don't care. Why we didn't finish the hair, remember? And then again, pull up towards the cheek. You want to punch in, see if I can keep on target. Help people catch a little bit more if I can work in close like this. I'll see if I can keep it where you guys can see it.
Yep.
But you can already start to see just a little bit of brightness that I've put over here on this cheek. And a little bit that touches on the bag under the eye here. I've got to working with a
Derp stick. This is a workup of advanced flesh tone and warm flesh. 50-50, right, Jason?
Yeah.
I want to center up just a little bit. There it is. Nice.
And I'll go in and just kind of stipple.
You can really start seeing the brightness come out.
Yeah. I'll stipple and very short lines. Make sure I keep the texture of the skin intact as I go. Stippling will kind of allow me to blend some of that out. Get this laugh line that comes out from above the nostril. Make sure that I leave a little bit of redness as it goes in towards the underside and the mustache, right? So having all those underpainted colors is really helping right now. I want to leave a little bit of red on the side of the nose here. I'm just going to pull up towards the ridge line on the nose. Again, a little bit of the redness of how the furrow of the brow looks. I can go ahead and highlight the edge there. It's looking pretty good.
Debbie artist, inconvenient. Lock the color.
Yeah. Give me just a second. Side of the frown at the bottom of the cheek, or bottom of the lip. Advanced flesh tone.
Nice.
But remember, you're seeing 0 of advanced flesh tone on its own because it was glazed over the top of bright yellow green. So if you punch back in, you'll see more of the bright, see that yellowish green in there? That's the bright yellow green showing through. Same on the ridgeline of the nose. The red oxide showing through at the flush points. And then, of course, the purple, right? The royal purple showing through underneath at the shadow of the cheek. So I'm picking advanced flesh tone because it has all of the right color components to it. It's a little more yellowish, right? Feels like a very tan skin tone. So when I put it over the top of all those other ones, you know, whenever you hear me say, oh yeah, we're going to glaze, one of the big things I always tell you is that you need to make sure when glazing that your color is darker than you really want it, right? And the reason for that is because it will lighten and not have as big of an impact hue-wise as you go over all these other colors, right? I want to bring a little bit of brightness right across this top wrinkle of the forehead here. Leave a couple of age lines in there by using the darker skin tone that's already there.
You're all just tuning in. We are about to wrap up stream for the day. Started with the fur cloak workup earlier today. Now we're brightening up the skin. Been working on this guy for the last about 2 weeks now.
Keep forgetting he has a scar. Create a brighter version of this, a little bit more of the warm flesh in there. And that'll be the basis for when I go in here and do this.
Gabriel, first time chat, welcome in. Hey, thanks for all the great painting tips. I'm going to try your gold non-metallic metal approach on my wood elves. Instead of dark purple as a shadow base coat, do you think black/green would work to give the gold a more frosty look?
Black/green, black green or black or green? What are you saying there? I wouldn't use black. Black green is going to be really dark. That doesn't mean it can't work. I think dark camo green is a great color, but again, it's a little yellow, which isn't bad. That helps a little bit. But I don't think black gets you where you want to be. When you say frosty look, is that what the term was? What do you mean by frosty? Help me understand what you're going for.
Maybe like a cooler look for wood elves, maybe like colder tones or cooler tones rather than warmer tones.
I would think like dark blue might work really well for you. Payne's gray can work very well. You know, if you want something that's a little cooler, anything in the blue range, black blue, Payne's gray, dark blue is going to be a little purplish. But the Payne's gray and the black blue would be great starts for that. And then over the top of that, I wouldn't go with the oranges because the oranges bring a lot of that warmth back in. I would go with more of the blue black or Payne's gray into like the dark yellow green, and then start in with your yellows over the top of that and forget the orange layer. Depends. I really like the way it turned out here, but I'm using for the black armor a lot of blues in the black armor, so I wanted that to offset by having more warmth, right? So the oranges, that orange oxide layer on the gold gives me that environmental reflection. It makes it seem like maybe he's on Ball or something, right? It's like red Earth or Mars or something. So I pull a little bit of color in from the environment for that. I do that across everything I do, though. You know, it's the same reason why the emerald on the
Oh.
cloak sets it apart.
Gabriel meant foresty, not frosty.
Oh, foresty, then yes. If you want more of a greenish look, black green in place of the dark purple would be awesome. Yes. Correct. Black green and then dark yellow green or yellow green and then into the orange and all that would be great. Because then you'd even, I mean, the orange then might even work as kind of an autumnal feel, like leaf, you know, and pulling the environment in that way. It could be really bitchin'. I think that'd be a good choice.
All right. I threw up some links for y'all.
It's 4?
I know, isn't that crazy?
I gotta quit. We've already raised the vibrancy of the face by quite a bit, just by that 50-50 tone. That pulls the skin tone from being the super tan version into this. I could quit here. This actually feels pretty good, right?
Yeah.
A little bit of detail work, but we brightened a little bit of the cheek over on the right because the way the light would hit, it would from this direction. Remember, this is our direction of our lighting. So you're going to catch a little bit of that cheek over on the other side, right? This whole side of the face, right? And I'm pretty happy with this. So all of a sudden now we have human skin tone again. And it sits in nicely with the brightness of everything else. We don't go so bright that it feels like it is overwhelming the metal or the fur. Now we need to work on the hair a little bit. So this will be like fine-tuning spots where now we put the shine, because it'll have a halo of shine across the hair, the way it's swept back. That will be bright, almost like the metal. And then we'll have to retune the face based on that, because we'll be putting a bright color like right next to it. We have these colors that are in close proximity, but when it's right along the hairline, then we'll have to see how that causes the face to look. But I think we're in a good spot.
No, it's looking great. Thank you all for tuning in today.
Hopefully, again, we showed you some fun stuff that is comes very simply. I like playing with paint. I am not one of those that thinks I gotta dig in and get, you know, my tongue sticking out and hold my balance to do all my details. I like starting from a place where it's really fun and sloppy, and then fine-tune it in the later stages. So if you can take one thing away from this stream, it's to just be courageous, go have fun painting, try something new, might find something, might stumble across an idea that you really, really like and can repeat on a lot of your work that makes it more fun. Love having you here. If you're new here, please hit that follow button. Remember, we do stream 5 days a week, Monday through Friday from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time here in Phoenix, Arizona from Monument HQ. Go check out all the links that Chris has thrown up in chat. I did that for him, by the way. And I did that for you, Jen. And go check out the Monument Hobbies website, where you can pick up some of the Pro Acryl and Pro Series brushes you see me using on stream every day, as well as all the other wonderful hobby products we make. Also, check out the FLGS link. It will take you to one of our hundreds and hundreds of stores globally that carry Monument products, where you can shop locally or more local to you. Please support your local FLGS. They do a ton of work to keep the community thriving in gaming and hobbying, so we love to see their support. Also, check out our Discord, where we have 5,322 amazing artists in the Discord who will be passing on the chicken dinner.
Oh, my goodness.
Go, somebody's paying attention in class, Ghost Hunter. And then also the YouTube link, where you can catch all of the past VODs from our live streams in the live section over there, as well as outtakes that Christopher does and edits together. I think the one coming up tomorrow is the Black Armor. Mm-hmm. So he's taking all the work that we've done on Antonio El Tigre for the Black Armor and put it into one easily manageable. How long is it? 15 minutes?
No.
20? 30?
We'll figure that out.
It's a long one.
It's long, but it's
all very good stuff.
Over 4 days.
Yeah, that's true.
That's not a long time.
Anyway,
yeah.
More manageable, lots of focus. Big ups to Chris for doing that, and we will check you back here tomorrow. Stick around. Chris is going to find somebody to raid, so show some hobby love when we wind up in the chat over there, and press that follow button for them as well. And we'll see you back here tomorrow. Adios, gang.